So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Canine Association Uganda, the Breeder Education Series discussion. This discussion is very informal, and today we are discussing a topic that should be dear to all of us. The topic is uh, ethical breeding practices, introduction to ethical breeding practices. So in this topic, we want to talk about the definition and responsibilities of a breeder, then importance of breeding for health, temperament and conformation, and not necessarily for profit. Then a quick overview why breed standards are important. Then we will look at ethical considerations and importance of breed clubs, associations, mentorship and guidance. So, how would you define who is a breeder? Anyone? Who can help us? What do you think?
Someone yes, because in Uganda, I think there are very few breeders who are ethical and to the right.
But there are many breeders anyway. So what is a breeder? It's someone who mates dogs intentionally. There is an intention to breed dogs.
For a purpose, I would add for a purpose, whether to fix the temperament, improve the temperament, the health, some for money. So I also believe that there's a purpose for every breeder.
Yeah, so as they may have different purposes, what are the things that they all have to go through, irrespective of their purpose? That is keeping the dogs, feeding the dogs, and providing them veterinary care and looking after the dogs, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
But then how do we upscale just any breeder to be now called the ethical breeder? What is ethical in breeding? What should be the ethics in breeding? Probably providing all the necessities to dogs to the best of their abilities, and then providing proper screening of potential owners so that dogs are not placed where they're not supposed to go, and also providing support and information and help to the owners of their puppies, giving them guidance when they need it, especially in regards to training and breed specific needs. And then an ethical breeder would be like the flag bearer of the breed they have chosen, preserving the legacy of the breed and continuously improving the quality of the breed for future generations. I think that kind of sums up what is an ethical breeder, because anyone can mix and match dogs, but to actually breed them to find them good homes and help dogs even later in life develop into the dogs that serve a specific purpose to their owners. That is also ethical. So if we then move to talk about importance of breeding for health,
Hello,
temperament.
Nada.
Yeah,
I wanted to chip in. There is what most breeders in Uganda do of this thing of having so many breeds. You find a breeder with 6 breeds. Some of them may be following sound practices in other aspects, but can someone with 6 breeds be an ethical breeder? That's a question I wanted to bring out.
In my personal opinion, it's difficult to be that. 2 or 3 breeds you can somehow manage, but having 6 different breeds, how many dogs are you having? And also, why all that? Is it necessary? There must be some different motivation behind that. To me, it doesn't sound like, I don't know, I'm not sure. But
maybe I can ask the question in a different way. Is, let's say, someone that has only one male dog and a female dog, and they breed only one male dog and a female dog of the same breed. Would we classify them as a breeder, knowing that part of the breeding has to always improve, maybe has to look for a better mate? So when we have just one mating couple, is that also considered ethical breeding? I think it comes in line with what Henry was saying, in the sense that if you have 6 breeds, are you just going to have 12 dogs, or are you going to have 20 dogs and 30 dogs?
I think
my
that's
opinion
a very good question.
Because if I can say something,
Go ahead.
my opinion is like ethical breeding. If we can say that ethical breeding is something that to do with a proper breeding, and also the line of dogs you are dealing with. If you are dealing with pure breeds, I don't think it is more of it is a number can be considered to be a problem. I think the problem has to go down to management rather than the number of dogs and the number of dogs and the number of breeds you have. So ethical breeding, I think, is something to look towards the management rather than the number you have. You can have the same breed, 20 dogs, but the way you breed them is not ethical. So I think the main point here is to do with the management of the line of the number of dogs you have. It doesn't matter the number of breeds you have. It is all about management, managing them ethically. That's my opinion anyway. So
that's
in
a
case
very
there's
good
an
point.
addition.
Hello, Nada. If I may,
shoot.
One of my observation, my keen observation in the years I have been in the dog world actively for about 19 years now. But one of the things that I have seen is that many people that you want to call themselves breeders are actually they are actually, I don't know how we call people who run puppy mills. For them, they're just churning out puppies. They have no purpose. They are only driven purely by business motivation. And esco dog ownership, esco dog breeding goes with responsible dog ownership. Responsibility as a dog owner is very important. And breeding, first of all, is very purposeful and very objective. So if you have dogs, if you're keeping dogs for the sole purpose of making money from dogs, not having dogs born free of deformities with limited health issues. I wouldn't call that a breeder. So I think from the definition, we must understand that one, you can breed a dog for a purpose. If, for example, you're breeding herding dogs, you want them to be better herding dogs to develop the instinct, you capitalize on the instinct. You also want to have dogs that are as free from health issues, hip and elbow dysplasia, etc., etc., etc. So you must be responsible as a dog owner first. And then I've seen very many people doing crazy things. Why would you, even if you call yourself a breeder, but why would you cross a Rottweiler with a German Shepherd? What kind of monster are you trying to create? This is a Frankenstein dog. I wouldn't trust it with my life. I wouldn't trust myself to train it. I wouldn't be sure how it would behave, but I see all these dogs in people's compounds. And you know, when the dog bites somebody, they say, oh, my Rottweiler. But when you look at the dog, it's not actually a Rottweiler. It's not a German Shepherd. And people are creating problems because if you have so many dogs, you know, some of these dogs, if you have like a Belgian Malinois, it can jump a 3-meter high fence from standing position. So you may keep your Maltese, and then if it jumps over a 3-meter high fence, you'll find tomorrow it's going to produce Maltese cross with a Belgian Malinois. You wouldn't know how this dog would behave. So I think it's also responsibility is key and objective. Thank you.
Thank you very
Well
much
said.
for that.
Well said.
Great submission. Great submission. Thank you so much. Nothing really to add. So let's jump to importance of breeding for health, temperament, and conformation, and not for profit. So what does this, in brief, what does it mean? Ethical breeding puts health as a priority, and then temperament and conformation as well. Where Canine Association wants to go is to really fully promote purebred dogs in order for people to understand that each breed of the dog has its purpose, has the way it should look, and the way it should behave, and a good description of the temperament as well. So we want to focus Ugandan breeders to choose purebred dogs over mixed breeds. We also want to focus them to choose ethical breeding over financial gain. At some later stage, we'll discuss in detail, actually, I want to do that, in detail, the business plan of an ethical breeder who sticks to some breeding program versus the business plan of a breeder who just breeds and churns out puppies. And it will be so clear that the person who breeds purposefully can gain financially more, but it should not be their priority in the first place. Also, breeding for health includes health screening and prescribed exams to determine what is the health of the hips and elbows. Are there any genetic hereditary diseases that the dog can pass on to the next generations and so on. For temperament, this is why we have dog shows. And with time, we will need to also organize the working trials so that we can properly assess temperament of dogs. And our judges are looking at temperament as a very important part of the assessment. And so a dog that is bred as a companion dog should not exhibit temperament of a, I don't know, attack dog or something. So there is a lot to learn there as well. Also, breeding for conformation has a purpose to produce puppies that fit the description of the breed and fit the physical and behavioral traits that are described in the breed standard. So the standards are not necessarily there just for the aesthetics of the dog, but they in detail describe conformation and temperament of dogs, what is expected of them. So when you go for unethical breeding, then you end up with overbreeding. You don't do health checks, or you start crossbreeding and making mix and match kind of combinations. So anyone wants to chip in here? Ali, you had here to also explain one segment that you wanted to talk about, and that is neurological stimulation. I think that can fit here.
Nada, if I may, I wanted to supplement your point.
Yes, go ahead.
When he talks about ESCO breeding for health, for me, the other day I had a talk with lottery people, and they were asking about responsible dog ownership. And one of the challenges I told them about dog keeping is that the veterinary bills are going to be very high. If you have a poorly bred dog, for example, I don't know how people can keep a pug with all the breathing and health issues that it might develop from that shot in the face and everything. So if you have dogs that are bred correctly, it means that you're going to have a lifetime of saving from veterinary costs. You only basically have to only do the vaccination. That is the most critical. You're not worried that if my dog does something, then I'm going to have GDV, I'm going to have some bloat or some problem whose risk increases because of the genetic makeup of my dog. And this probably would help the ESCO breeders, because if I can buy my puppy at maybe a higher price, but in the long run, I don't have to have lots of health problems. Like hip surgery in dogs is very, very expensive to correct the hip dysplasia. I know, because every time I take somebody brought a dog for that kind of operation, if you told them the price, they say, now, which one is cheaper, putting it down or continuing with the treatment, the surgical operation? And sometimes it may not succeed because there are not very many people who know how to do it well. So I mean, that is for me the biggest saving. Yeah, that's it.
I can add to hip dysplasia. I had very unfortunately a female that started suffering from hip dysplasia, and we were not even considering the operation. We were giving her time to live her life pain-free. But when I could see that the pain is too much, by accident I stumbled on the idea to do the operation with Dr. Ben Agwai at Makerere. And we did it together. I was in there with him and some assistants and students, and we completely removed the hip joint. So the hip joint was dismantled, and then just the ligaments around the hip joint were stitched together. And this dog lived for another 4 years happily, without any problem, able to walk. Of course,
At what cost?
Now, that was some years ago, and I remember clearly that I paid 400,000. That was like $100 at that time at Makerere University. But it was quite a while ago. I would say more than 5 years ago. And it was Dr. Ben Agwai who, oops, there is a bat in my house. Ow. So we can do it, but it's better to prevent it. And prevention is obviously by breeding the right dog with the right dog and not producing puppies with the potential for dysplasia. For her, the problem with that dog was that she grew from puppy to adult extremely fast. And she had a boyfriend who used to play extremely rough. So he would bang her and bash her and knock her, and every other day another leg was limping. And that was her main issue. And I believe from that young age and rapid growth that she was predisposed to hip dysplasia, which she developed. But Ali the chick has something to tell us about health and the early development of puppies. And it's a brilliant story.
Anyway, not really a story, but just a bit of my own personal experience. When I actually started breeding a few years ago, I wanted to know what was the difference between a good breeder and just a normal breeder. So I do remember I read a lot on YouTube. I watched a lot of movies online. I read to try to find out what distinguishes a good breeder from a normal breeder. And one fact that struck me the most at the moment is that the most important time for a puppy is actually between 3 to 16 days. So that's in the first 4 weeks of the life of the puppy. Most of us, when we get a dog, we might assume that okay, of course, you will get a puppy at 8 weeks, maybe 10 weeks. You will assume that you have raised the puppy well, you have trained the puppy, and you will take credit for the way that you have raised the puppy. But actually, the most important work has been done by the breeder if they have done the work right. It's actually 3 to 16 days. So sometimes when you get a puppy as a breeder, when you get a puppy and you raise this dog and you're happy with the temperament and you're happy with the character of the dog, you tend to take credit for the dog, but actually the work was done a long time ago, whether knowingly or not by the breeder. So there's something very important that breeders in Europe and in the US do, and it's actually very common now. It's not a lot of science, but they do a lot of it's called like stimulation for the neurons between 3 to 16 days. So it's a process that you can read a lot about, okay, online, but it takes around maybe 30 minutes to 1 hour if you have a litter of like 8 puppies. What it would involve is lifting every single puppy, doing some movements on the ears, on the nose, like circular movements on the nose, on the ears. You would put your hand along the back of the puppy all the way to the tail, and you stretch the tail. You touch every single toe, every single leg of the puppy. You would use as well some earbuds, and you tickle the feet of every puppy. You can get some ice cubes. You put down the ice cubes under a towel, and you put the puppy on the towel. You can get some hot bath, which you put into the towel. So basically what you're doing is you're exposing the puppy to cold, to heat, to a lot of sensory movements on parts that are supposedly very sensitive to dogs, like the nose, the ears, the tail. You expose the puppy every day to a different scent. So one day you can try with an onion, then an orange. You can try chili. vanilla. So, and you do this every single day from 3 to 16 days. Towards the end of the 16 days, you start to do some more movements where you introduce loud sounds into where you keep the puppies. You start to put toys where they stay, etc. Anyway, it's a long procedure, but it's actually common online. And if you read about it, you will find that puppies that have gone through this become much more confident. The temperament fits with the breed. The dog is fine with being touched on the nose, on the ears, on the tails, which sometimes you find some dogs are not happy if you touch their teeth, and you see this at shows as well. Sometimes, okay, the judge asks you as the owner, okay, to open the teeth because you find that the dog, wants to growl or like is not happy with being touched on his ears and tails. Another point that I would want to add is like another difference between a good breeder and a normal breeder is usually as a breeder you only see your results a few years down the line. If you have a good mate, like a male and a female, and you achieve good results from the first litter, I would confidently say that this has been the result of the previous breeders of your dogs. For you to claim that you're a good breeder and that you have achieved results in your program, I think it has to come down the line when you've used your own, progeny, and you have your program and you are seeing results maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the line. So to achieve this, one of the points that is really stressed a lot about is documentation and how important it is to document every litter with notes and including these observations. So when you are doing the sensory with the puppies, there's actually worksheets online that you can download, and you make notes about every single puppy. This puppy, reacted to heat or to cold, So you make notes, and eventually you also follow up on the puppies. When you follow up on the puppies and the parents, you should be able to go back to your notes and learn from your notes what did you do that actually achieved a specific result down the line in terms of temperament. So not only the way the dog looks. Most of the breeders would focus on the way the dog looks, but yeah, so this is mainly what I wanted to chip in terms of the sensory. I am not an expert on it, but of course, if you read a lot about it online, there's a lot of documentation.
Thank you so much. I didn't know that you can start that plan from 3 weeks. Is it 3 days?
3 days. 3 days. So when the puppies still can't walk and their eyes are closed.
Okay. Thank you very much for that information. If you can give us more details and we follow up, that will be good.
Yeah,
thanks.
The thing is, just to sum up, you're putting the puppy from the earliest age into situations that are not necessarily normal. So you will maybe hang the puppy upside down, or hold the puppy with the head up and the whole body dangling. You want the puppies to accept these situations and not feel panicky or stressed when you handle them. And that early handling also somehow introduces them to human touch, to human interaction from that very early time. What normally breeders do, they will just have a litter, feed the mother, and that's it, you know, like that's where the interaction stops. So we need to bring more awareness that you can create better and mentally stable dogs through that early handling of dogs, of puppies.
Can I add as well something small? Usually, when a dog is being chosen as a therapy dog or as a scent dog, as a working dog, the trainers come and do certain exercises to identify which puppy in the litter is, suitable. And one of the exercises that they do is they come and they bang like a loud sound. So they put every puppy alone, because if the puppy is in a litter, you can't really judge. You have to judge every puppy alone. So you put a puppy in a room with a handler that the puppy is not familiar with. This is usually after 7 to 8 weeks, and you bang. So you can hold a saucepan and you bang on the saucepan. If the dog barks or runs away or is very startled, automatically he doesn't have one of the traits. The right trait for a working dog and for a therapy dog is the dog will acknowledge the sound but will not run or bark and will not seem scared. And then you do one more test. You hold an umbrella when it's closed and you open the umbrella directly in the face of the puppy. And again, the puppy should not be startled and should not run away. So if you manage these two, along other traits, but mainly these two, you actually have a therapy dog and you have a working dog that is extremely good for scents, because the dog is calm, is not stressed, is not vulnerable to stress, and etc. So if a breeder has done the sensory exercises from 3 to 16 days, the dog is more likely to pass these two traits.
Okay.
So the
That's very
treatment development starts very early in the puppy's life. Now I'm looking at the chat. There are some links posted in the chat. Please take a look. Caesar shared from American Kennel Club, breeder puppy socialization, and early neurological stimulation. So that is a very useful link. Marianne also comments that it's important to note that different breeds require different foundational desensitization. That is also very true. Different breeds, different temperaments, different learning path, and definitely different approach in the early days. Any more comments on this?
No comment from me.
Elaborate on things like dysplesia and some conditions like seizures. These are things that can be prevented, and these are costs that can also be prevented in the course. So I presume that with a proper relationship between a breeder and a vet, such things can be eliminated. But most of the times you may find that people see such things as, when I call a vet, it will be expensive. But just imagine an expense that involves 4 dogs that have dysplesia. That will be almost triple the amount you'll be paying a vet to prevent such a cause. So in any case where you can prevent anything from happening, especially genetical diseases and diseases like viral diseases, I think the most expensive cases come with either genetical or viral diseases. Bacterial diseases, I believe, most breeders can handle them, but viral diseases and genetical diseases, most of the times you find that even if you're a breeder with enough information, you find it is kind of tricky to handle such cases. So I prefer that if you can improve your relationship between a vet at the early stage, I'm sure you can eliminate most of these things. Okay, that's all I can add for now.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Just to go back a bit to what Ali was saying, the dogs literally from the transitional period to their juvenile period, as trainers, we also know once a dog gets to its juvenile period, which is about 16 weeks to 6 months, sometimes it's too late to change some of these things, especially if it's inherent in the breed. But we also must understand as breeders that just because the dog is not, it's coming from, even if it's coming from pedigree parents and it's not reflecting. For example, we have a pedigree that has a passport with us, and it is just off, you know. So it's not that when it doesn't do that, it cannot be worked on, and so the dogs shouldn't ordinarily be rejected based on these initial outputs, especially when you test them at about 3 months. So one, always a dog for everyone. What's important is, one, if you notice the breed is not up to standard, especially with its temperament or character, discourage the breeding. But two, there's always a dog for someone. It's important that you explain to the person who is taking it what the puppy's characters are, where its faults are, and why it shouldn't be bred, or why you would encourage it to be bred. Yeah.
That is spot on, Marianne. Thank you so much for that. So I'd like to move on to just the overview of breed standards. We're not going to discuss them in detail because there are, I don't know how many now, 300 dog breeds. What is a breed standard? It's a detailed guideline to describe how this breed should ideally look and behave. So breed standards would include your physical description of the breed, that is the size, the coat type, color, body proportions, any distinctive features like ear shape or tail shape, tail carriage, and so on. Then you have a part in the breed standard that explains the behavioral traits. That will talk about temperament, energy levels, intelligence of the dog, and suitability for any kind of work, whether it is for herding, for guarding, or companionship, or scent dogs, and so on. So basically, to an ethical breeder, breed standard is a guiding star on the horizon, because ethical breeder wants to follow the breed standard to produce puppies that will develop for conformance to the breed, and then consistency and quality of the breed in the breeding programs. And it also, ethical breeder would want to ensure the preservation of the breed unique identity. So now you have seen in the recent years, for example, what somehow, I don't know whether it bothers me or not, but somehow when I see Goldie Poo and whatever combinations of poodles and God knows what dogs, I'm kind of worried, like, why are we doing this? To me, it's really a mixed feeling, you know, if the breeds get mixed by accident, then that's an accident. But if you start mixing breeds that shouldn't mix on purpose just to see what will come out, that's a bit of a problem. Now, in our WhatsApp groups, we've often heard people saying, "Oh, I've mixed up Malinois and Rottweiler. I'm starting a new breed," and you really want to like have a headache pill, because surely some breeds should not be mixed, and they lose, first of all, their qualities, and then you get something that is really unpredictable as a result. So I'm opening the floor for this kind of discussion. Breed standards and what are we doing, how are we doing it?
So with breed standards, I think the main issue is ignorance. Many people are breeding, but they don't know much about the breeds that they are breeding. That is why it's very important, maybe at the shows or even in the individual or specific breed clubs, for all these matters to be spelled out to the members, and for members to be encouraged to read extensively regarding the breeds that they have. For me, at least, I'm quite knowledgeable when it comes to the Bulbul because I've spent time reading the standards. So people may let's say look at the aspect of height. Someone may say that, I saw a very tall Bulbul somewhere. And then when you go and look at it, you notice that it's more in the territory of a Great Dane. And yet the breed standard says that the Bulbul is shorter than a Great Dane, and then prescribes also the ideal height. So those are aspects that people need to acquaint themselves with if they are to produce dogs that comply with that specific breed. Yeah, that's it from me.
Yeah, and you picked an interesting breed, because Borbul, according to the standard, has like a wide range actually of phenotypes. So there is like a Borbul breed, but you could almost see the one or two or three subtypes. It can be like this, it can be like that, you know. So and that is because it's an indigenous South African breed, and South Africa being a big country, dogs were bred in different parts of the country, and their phenotypes differ slightly. But the main characteristics of the breed standard are present in all of them. So the big head, the strong skull, the holding of the shoulders, the wide set of the chest and the shoulders and all that. It's present in all of them. So they are within standard, but some maybe a little leaner and the others a little bulkier and so on. And also different breeders, I believe, have different preference for these phenotypes. So they keep one phenotype, somebody else will keep another phenotype.
Yeah, that's true.
And I've noticed the same with Swiss White Shepherds, for example. When you look at the White Swiss, that's a German Shepherd. It's not a lie. That's how the breed originated. But in the beginning, they all looked like German Shepherds except white. Now, with time, German Shepherds moved away to a different stance and a different layout of the top line, and white Swiss Shepherds remained not bred for the purpose of work and attack, and they retained that tabletop kind of top line, which is straight and square. Now, I notice more and more that Europe has much longer and leaner white Swiss with a kind of dove head, very different from what I'm used to seeing. And so even in white Swiss, there are phenotypes.
Wow. Does the standard describe? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, go on.
Yes, I just wanted to say that back to the headline, being ethical as a breeder, we should also know when a breed is not really conforming to the standard, and we should take the decision to actually take out this dog from the program. Sometimes breeders continue breeding a dog, yet in some aspects it doesn't conform to the breed standard in terms of temperament or even looks.
Yeah. And also in terms of any kind of a impairment or disease. Like when we discovered first that our female has dysplasia on one hip, in the very early stage, we spayed her instantly. Because I don't want to think whether this is something she will pass on to the puppies. And the other thing is, I don't want her to carry puppies because that can just worsen her condition. So that was also a decision that was made for the dog and not for myself. Of course, I wanted more puppies from her. She was a brilliant, intelligent dog. But, if there is a risk that her offspring will have dysplasia, I can't allow that. Luckily, we didn't have any problems with her earlier offsprings. They didn't show with dysplasia. So that was my good luck as a breeder.
Nada, one of the things that you highlight is that ethical dog breeding also requires very difficult decision making. You have to make really, really tough decisions. You have to make the tough calls to decide to terminate. Because at the time I had a dog that had some sort of genetic fault. I had 2 lame puppies, but I could not allow the litter to go out. I put them down. It's one painful decision I made. And then I stopped breeding that female dog because something was wrong. But now, if you're not an ethical breeder, that kind of decision, you're only looking at your financial side. Because I bought a dog from somebody who seemed reputable, and it cost me money. It cost me money to raise the dog, to produce the puppies. But at the end of the day, I could not allow this kind of genetics to enter the genetic pool. So the decision that you made is a very difficult and painful one, and that's what ethical breeders do.
And I think this could bring us to the topic of ethical considerations, avoiding puppy mills and overbreeding. So we touched on puppy mills, and we know they prioritize profit over the well-being of animals. We have seen pictures that come out of horror stories, how dogs are kept. I've seen some photos of females of this dog that they call Maltese, but is not. Dog that's never groomed, that is producing puppies in a dirty wooden box that's never cleaned, and so on. And then these puppies turn up in someone's hand on the street being sold for 200,000-300,000 shillings. So we have that problem, and that problem is not going to go away. immediately, but if ethical breeders take under their mentorship someone who doesn't know and doesn't know better, then we can help other breeders come on board with ethical breeding. Because in terms of production, what is it? It's breeding once a year, so that the female can simply recover from having a litter, and then making good choices in terms of health, temperament, conformation. So to prioritize output of quality puppies, and then ensuring that these puppies get a nurturing environment where they will receive proper socialization and care. What happens to a lot of dogs, puppies rather, they end up in homes and people don't know how to care for them or how to socialize them and so on. And these dogs end up being on chains or being locked up all day long. That really is not a life for a dog. So we need to be very aware that most people don't do it uh, deliberately. They do it out of ignorance, out of not knowing better. So there is a lot of sensitization we have to do as breeders to help others understand that a dog should be really a family member. Uh, sure, the dog should have quiet time and kennel time, but it should still be exposed to people, to family, to other animals, and so on, so that we don't produce more stressed and scary dogs. And we've seen enough cases where dogs that have not been properly brought up, socialized, or come from an environment where they were, as puppies, not cared for the right way, they turn into real monsters. They bite people, they injure people, they kill people as well. Leave aside what they do to other dogs.
Yes, Nod.
Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
Yes. What I have realized, most people who are in breeding, most of them, they don't have time for their kennel.
Uh-huh.
They don't have time. They don't care. They don't provide good shelter. They just accumulate the dogs, just lock them up in rooms which are not aerated. They are not even rooms. They are like cells.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. Then the dogs get stressed. Then the dogs get sick. They don't know how they eat. They just go collecting leftovers from different places to provide us. It is really pathetic, and they masquerade and say they are breeders. So some of them have put in their money, but still they feel that accumulate stock first and kennels last. So I don't know. We have to continue to, I don't know what we are going to do to the breeders to know that really dogs also have a life. They need to be loved. You have to check on them all the time. You have to be with them, and you eradicate this business of all the time ill. Oh, my dog has died. I don't know, it had too much constipation, what, and so on.
Yeah.
So that's what I have realized, that I have actually visited quite a number of kennels, but sometimes you feel sad.
Caesar, you want to chip in?
For me, from what I have heard from Teddy, thank you for that submission. It's a very serious observation because welfare is also part of responsible dog ownership. Welfare includes feeding, housing, but unfortunately, we have people who falsely claim to be dog breeders, but they're actually raising dogs with a pig farmer's mentality. You know, a pig farmer is the one who goes to hotels to collect leftover food, to maybe hospitals or restaurants, and then they try to feed the same for their dog. For example, they do not know that high salt is bad for the dogs. They do not know that the spices, the onions, and all these things that they put in human food are very dangerous for the dogs. And you know, they continue because I don't know if it's ignorance or trying to profit, but it's a pig farmer's mentality. You know, pigs can eat the soil. The dogs need to have properly planned meals. And unfortunately, with the internet, with all the resources available, they try not to improve their knowledge.
Achu,
So I think that's it for now from me. Yeah.
Achu, maybe you want to elaborate on your message.
Pardon me?
No, Achu Das had a message for us. I don't know if he can talk or... the message is that the only issue I have with our breeders is that they don't breed dogs according to their capabilities and temperaments. For example, you can't have no space and breed working dogs. That's a pretty valid point because but I think that touches on the 5 animal freedoms. And one of those animal freedoms is enough space to exercise, to play, and to exhibit its natural behaviors.
Yeah.
If a dog is a working dog and you keep him in a box, then it's very difficult for that dog to exhibit natural behaviors.
Yeah. Can I add something on top of that?
Please. Nice to hear your voice.
Thank you. Most of the time, people go into breeding just because there's somebody else profiting in it. That's where we get all these issues of breed test out and trials because I have money to buy a female bauble from Jabo, but I don't have money to pay for a stud. So what am I going to do? Find somebody in India that has a dog that looks a bit like a bauble, and then start off my breeding. So I feel like we need to encourage people to breed according to their wallets. If your budget is for a purebred German Shepherd and that's what you're able to feed, don't go into baubles because you're going to spend all your money in feeding. And also, if you don't really have space and you want to start breeding, don't breed a Malinois because everybody else is earning from them. At the end of the day, you're going to mess up the dog, or the dog is going to mess you up because of how they're genetically built. And also, dogs' genetics can be changed according to how they live. One thing Ali and Marian were talking about in the beginning about building a character in dog as from puppyhood. Dogs' genetics and temperaments can be shaped through their parents, which means they can be changed. So if you have a Belgian Malinois and your locked it up in a kennel, you have no space for it to walk. It's reared like a broiler chicken in the kennel. What do you expect from the puppies? That's where you have all these issues around, and people throwing out dogs and putting them down because of how the breeder miscalculated their whole breeding plan. So in my opinion, I feel like we need to advise everybody to breed according to their environment and temperaments. Because if you are not active, why are you dealing with working dogs? Find a dog that fits your temperament. If you can't be active, running around dogs, playtime, fine, go to Jabo, buy some bob. And also bobos need a lot of exercise. So I feel like we need to start encouraging everyone to breed according to their capabilities. I think that's where most of the things go wrong. That's where we have all these Ugaltis, because trust me, there are people who have seen bringing in Maltese from different countries and their pedigree, and then they call you and they're like, have a guy here, they want mating, but they have something that looks similar to Maltese. I'm not sure if it's really a Maltese. And yeah, the question comes up, and then you ask the guy, what are you doing? Why don't you just buy a pure breed and start off something legit? And then they're like, it's hassles. We are hustling. We breed what we can afford. And in actual sense, you can't really afford it if you can't find it at its right origin. So that's basically what I have to say right now.
That could bring us nicely into the topic of importance of breed clubs and associations for mentorship and guidance. You see, in all over the world, breed clubs are the first place for joining to interact, to learn more about the breed, to learn how to bring up your puppy, and breeders themselves would encourage you to join a breed club, because then you get enough guidance, you learn a lot from other puppy owners or dog owners, and you can manage to develop your puppy into a very good dog. Now, obviously we want to do it, but we somehow are lagging behind for many reasons. Obviously, the people are busy, traffic is crazy, and so on. People don't have the time to meet as a breed club. However, I believe it would be so good for most of our popular Ugandan breeds that people form clubs and find time, maybe once a month, once every 2 months, to meet and to actually benefit from each other, on top of socializing the dogs and looking at potential matings and so on. Why do breed clubs exist? First of all, is that
Nada,
breeds? Yes.
sorry for the interruption, but I got two reasons why people don't really join breeding clubs.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, there was a guy who called me and he said he breeds golden retrievers, and I sent him Ali's number. I told him, you know what, get in touch with Ali, because right now he's the breeder who breeds golden retrievers that we all go to. And he told me, this was very funny, he told me his breeds are too pure for his dog to join.
You see?
So yeah, some of these guys, they know they have something wrong and they're just scared to put it out there.
Akidas,
Like
I think
right now
I agree with you.
Yeah. And
I agree
right
with
now
you.
we
You know,
have
pride. You know, this is why, for example, sorry to interrupt. You
no,
know, I
no,
was
go.
trying to deal with Ankole cattle farmers, and from 2015, I have been we tried to bring them into Ankole Cattle Breed Society for the preservation and improvement of of their cattle. Up to now, it's almost 11 years later, nothing has happened. So I can understand that there is a bit of pride and a bit of selfishness and ignorance.
Yeah, and
There's
also yes, ignorance. Back to ignorance, because we have let me go back to the Malinois. We have Malinois that are bigger than shepherds in Uganda. That is absolutely insane. The breed standard has a weight
Are you
limit. I feel
sure they
like
are
in the
Marinois?
next
yes, we know one.
yes, we know not
Really,
only
Marianne,
one,
you
we know
also know the
breeders
dog.
that specifically. Yes, we do.
Oh my goodness.
And we try to talk to these guys and we tell them, you know what? Your dog is way off the standard. It cannot be that heavy, that big to be a Malinois. It has to be mixed with something. And they because of the pride they have, they just cancel you out. So
Yeah, I think in addition to that, there's an issue with the market itself. You know, if I come and tell someone a dog costs $1,000 and above, and someone else is saying, nah, you can get it at 700,000, 500,000, that's also an issue. And those people who sell dogs at that price, I've been along Makindye, is it Salama Road, and I've met a couple of them just to go see where the dogs are. And you kind of, when you look at the environment and you look at giving a dog beans, you know, instead of, that's their version of protein, you know, and you look at how much they are selling their dogs, you really see why the dogs are suffering. But they have zero interest standardizing, zero interest. Because
Marianne, there's something that is even crazier than that. People have two good-looking dogs. Every time puppies are advertised, they purchase the puppies. If you come say, let me look at the parents, there's that kind of fraud that's been happening for a while. And they say, look, these are the puppies, those are the parents. And then you jump on the puppies, and then you find that you picked maybe hyenas or something. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I don't know if I told you, we have a client who came and asked us for Boapel, and we told him, listen, we know only one breeder who'll give you one. And if it's not standard at the show, he'll swap it. It's not a problem for him. He told me, nah, he went quiet actually. So I went to visit him about 3 weeks ago. And he tells me, come and see, I got a dog at 700,000. I don't understand what you were saying. I looked at it. It was a mix of a Great Dane and a local dog. And he was supposed to have bought a Boab. And he was so convinced. They told him it's a puppy. I checked the teeth. I said, really? How did you get here? But what we've done on our end is we've made it, first of all, we protect our clients. We have specific breeders we send clients to. Sometimes our clients might call you and you don't know it's us who sent. Sometimes you forget, but we protect them. Case in point, we have a client who has a very lovely Rottweiler. And another client who has a funny Rottweiler who mixed it with a German Shepherd comes and tells us, I want to breed. And he convinces us it's not his dog he's breeding. It's another person's Rottweiler. So we're like, okay, we'll go with you. We reach and the dog is so funny. We told the client, it ended up apologizing. And he called about 2 weeks ago and said, oh, the dog is on heat, I have to breed again. We told him, if there was somewhere we could report you, we would. You shouldn't be breeding your female. It's totally substandard. Just as Atra said, these things of people calling our clients and saying, listen, there's a dog we want to breed, we stopped all that, especially the Malinois.
Marianne.
Yeah.
You know, according to Marianne, according to the Animal Breeding Act of 2001, we are supposed to be able to report these to the Commissioner of Production in the Commission of Animal Production in in my youth, but because they failed also to establish the Uganda Kennel Club and all the things that we've been pushing for, even what Canine Association of Uganda is pushing for, we do not yet have a policy framework that allows us to pursue those people using legal means. For now, it's just advocacy.
And I think
But
for
there
us,
should be a mechanism. It's catered for under the under the Animal Breeding Act, but many sections of that act have not been operationalized because I think maybe the strategic interest has not yet been there.
Yeah, but I think for us as private business people, it's very clear that for a club to work, we have to get in a certain set of people. One, we need the vets in there. Two, we need the breeders. We need the trainers. And I think there should be a pre-composition that should be set for these clubs. Why I say this is, if we're trying to protect the industry at large and trying to give dogs generally a better chance at survival in this country, I mean, we need to get to a point where our average rate of survival, our average age of a dog is much higher than it is right now. If we are trying to achieve that, then we have to be strict, but you can't be alone. It can start with you, but it requires the whole ecosystem working together. It needs to get to a point where we know, if I'm looking for a shepherd, I can go to Teddy, this specific type of shepherd. If not, I can go to Ida. If not, I can go to so and so. And then we totally block out the other market, because the other market, it's like dogs are like a fast-moving consumer good when you look at the other side of it. I mean, we've engaged in it heavily just to understand. So first things first, who do we engage to join these clubs? And can they be quite active? Because if they're active, then we end up covering more people. But also communication-wise, if I tell my client something, he's going to listen or she's going to listen. But if I say it and the vet says it, and if I ask, where did you get your dog from? Like Jabo, we got a client and I immediately asked him, where did you get your Boabel from? And he was very clear. He got it from Jabo, from Harry. And I'm like, that's standard. We can train the dog immediately. There's like, we understand his dogs better. So if it's drilled in from many different angles, then the clients start to understand, because many of these clients don't know. Someone thinks they are buying a pure breed and they are buying a Quincy or a mongrel, and you can't even tell what it's made of. And people, you can't tell the genetic composition of the dog at all. You just start guessing and you're like, oh, that might be this, might be that. End up downloading apps to check, because the client doesn't even want to do genetic testing. So all that, the breeding, by the way, essentially affects us as trainers heavily. So it's in our best interest that we also participate in these clubs and ensure that the right information is specifically getting to the client. Because if you try to go after these other guys selling these other dogs or breeding funny, it's just not, it's not as feasible as it sounds. Because we've tried it in our area with Achu, we've tried it in the area of Munyonyo Gava. Any client we get, we immediately ask, who did you buy the dog from? Give us the number of the breeder. We call the breeder, like, what are you doing? Like, you told the client they had a golden retriever. This is not a golden retriever. It's some sort of Labrador retriever, and the client is there saying, take my dog to the show. And you're like, no, I can't take this dog to the show, So I think the combined building a proper structural proper ecosystem for the clubs, and just because it's a breeding club, it shouldn't just have breeders in it. And then from there on, we all set our standards and have our databases shared, so everyone knows who they should call for what.
Okay. Just I wanted to chip in a bit, please, if you don't mind. I think it's also a mentality issue among the breeders. Breeders tend to see everyone else as competition. Yet,
Yes.
I think everywhere else it's common knowledge that okay, breeders don't compete with themselves. So when we meet as breeders, we are not competition to each other, even if we are in the same breed. So even if someone else is raising a golden retriever and I am also raising a golden retriever, it's not competition. It's actually the other way around. When someone is promoting a breed, he's actually working in the same line as you, as a second breeder or a third breeder. When you join hands in a club, you're actually working to make sure that the breed standard is maintained and that the dogs born under this breed are all of the same quality of the standard. And why is that important? That's important because you make it much, much more harder for anyone else to breed off the road like the Salama and the puppy mills. When you maintain a standard and you're a collection of of breeders in a breed, I mean in a club, and you're doing everything right, it becomes much more hard for anyone else to do it wrongly, because at the end of the day, the results will show in the product. When your dog is in someone's house and someone likes the dog and asks, "Where did you get this dog from?" They're going to be like, "I got it from breeder A, from breeder B, etc." Back to what Achu said. I do get some people who want to bring females for stud, and the first question I ask, just to show you that sometimes it's not a money issue, it's a mentality issue. I tell them I don't charge a stud fee, but my only condition is that the female is registered, that it's pedigree, that it has been assessed, because I don't want my male to father puppies without any certification, without any pedigrees, and then they're again in the market. And you will find that these breeders cannot even find the time to take their female to a show, to pay 30,000-50,000 to assess the female, to skip a heat and come back after a year for a free stud service. Yeah. So basically,
can I add on something?
just to summarize, I feel that the breed clubs are there to actually father all the breeders for the same cause, and not to compete with each other.
Can I chip in? Sorry, it is easier said, but as you have all heard, most people take it as competition. So when you organize, let's say, same breed get together, they say, "Oh, I cannot go there." To go and go, after all, Kino Park is got the best. So what am I going to do there? I can't go there. So it's a bit difficult, but it will take time for people to appreciate that it is about learning more about your breed. So we have to be patient. It will take time, but we keep trying.
Another thing I wanted to add on Ali's statement, the purebred dog industry in Uganda is very small at the moment, and dogs are inbred. Dogs are being met with their own sisters, their own brothers, and it's it's very, very dirty and disgusting. I don't know how many dogs that I can trace back to one dog, and they are even breeding pairs that you can genetically trace back to that same dog. Yeah, and so that's why we pulled some of our working dogs out of stud, and I think this annoyed most of the trainers because we had registered some of those dogs with CAU, but they are off the breeding because of how relatively these guys decided to breed dogs. Like Malinois in this country are all related. There are only like a few of them that are preserved on the side that are not related or imported from somewhere else. But if you're to trace all the shepherds, but I think right now that is being cleared with all the new breeders. But 5 years ago, all shepherds, I'm pretty sure 5, 6 years ago, were all related. So stopping these things from happening, I think it's all about what Ali just said. It's about you. If somebody comes to you, is it all about the money or is it about the breed preservation? You know?
Integrity.
Yeah.
You see what is not clear at the moment is if we continue with the practices that we have, that's why we end up having to sell dogs at 500,000, 800, 1 million, like the Salama Road and the puppy mills. So the reason they can't get more for their dogs is basically because of these practices. If we're under a club and things are managed well and etc., it will be a matter of time before dogs will be at $1,000 and and above. It will just be a matter of time. It all comes down to the practices that we are doing at the moment.
And also to add on, let's not be terrified by the backyard breeders, because all around the world, even here in the United States, there are backyard breeders. But it's just that the associations in different states, they are very, very, very strict with everything. Even the veterinary places, if you go to a vet and your dog is a mixed breed, you go through a different process than somebody who came in with a pedigree, because everything is registered, everything is on the computer, everything is all together. Adding on what Marian said earlier, it's not only about the breeders, it's about the vets. It's about, because trust me, the vets are doing a very, very big job about marketing. If a vet decides to market a breeder, that breeder is going to succeed well off. Because I know vets in Uganda that handle over 300 clients a month. Imagine such information those vets are putting out there. So if we all come together, the breeders, the trainers, the association, I feel like things can change a bit. It will take time, but there is hope. There is hope for dog breeding in Uganda.
I also hear more and more that people say, is your dog registered? So that means Canine Association at least has done some impactful work where there is an element of trust that we register proper dogs and their litters, and that's also a sales point. Also, people want to have our health passports because that helps them market their dogs. So there is something that we are doing that is right, but we need to evidently do more of that. I think that when people organize themselves in dog clubs, they can then also develop their own rules and ethics and get involved. When they have dog club meetings together with their dogs, that gives them visibility. And visibility is very important factor. It looks different when you have 50 golden retrievers in one place and you don't know where to look because they're all pretty, one more beautiful than the other, or you have 3 good dogs and the rest is just mixed breed dogs. it's not as attractive. So clubs should exist and build their following, and the purpose is to check on each other, on what new genetics they have in breeding programs, because that's also very important, that there is a new dog from time to time. Keep records and make sure all the puppies, we know where they go, because you see, one thing is to sell puppies through brokers and you don't have any clue where your puppy went. The other thing is to keep telephone numbers of all your people and then contact them when there is a dog show, invite them, or invite them to come home for socialization or something. So we need to definitely be focused on developing and growing the breed clubs. There are many hindrances, and it's of course very easy to say, oh, we are too busy or can't find the time and so on. But in the long run, being a part of a dog club benefits everyone in the club, because you have your veterinarians there, you have the breeders, you have a much bigger outlook on what the genetic pool is, and so on. Now, I wanted to ask Caesar, Caesar, do you know of anyone in our country who is doing genetic testing of animals? Or do you have any idea how far is that gene bank in Entebbe? Are they soon opening or anything? Caesar, tumwesje, orinkahe. Genetic testing is an important question that we need to start talking about, because that can give us so many answers to all these other questions. Where is the dog coming from? Is it related, not related? Any hereditary diseases, any problems with the dog, any potential problems for the progeny, and so on. So we will need to start that discussion, and it's very important for all of us. So any more comments?
Yeah, question. Is it possible for us to know the dogs that are brought in? Because we have quite a number of experts who come in with dogs. Case in point is Achu Major's father. Someone came and dropped a Bohemian shepherd somewhere in our area, and God, are the puppies many. And it seems when the person left, they handed it to someone as a gift, and the person took it as a shepherd. And now we are seeing so many shepherds looking like it. So I think it would also be good for us to, if there are any unique breeds that are brought into the country, if there's a way we could find out, and kind of, because many of these breeds are unique and many people don't know them. Many breeders here also don't know them. And so you end up with something that looks like a German Shepherd. It should be a German Shepherd. Nada, I don't know if you remember a dog that we brought for the first show. I remember we first sent you pictures and we asked you, what dog is this? And you told us, I just bring it to the show and the judge will tell us. So I think the father of that specific male, because we stopped breeding that male has never bred. It's actually at a client's home, because we immediately noticed it's not what it's supposed to be. But I was at another client's home recently, and I could have sworn I saw his brother somewhere, or a sibling. I could have sworn they had the same lineage or parents. But it would also be good for us to know when these breeds are brought in.
The only way we can know is if we can have the overview of the import permits from the Ministry of Agriculture. And that information may not be easily accessible because it's private information, but we should raise this issue with the ministry and see if they cannot share the info, because it is, after all, benefiting the dog lovers and breeders and so on. So yeah, let's try and have that discussion with the ministry.
Okay.
We could put it in this way, where we ask them to provide the breed names, not the specific dogs, so that we're able to build the trust from that, knowing that this dog is in the country, it exists, whether as a pet or as a breeder.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's easy to find a dog and not be shocked that it's in the country.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
you know, the import permit contains the contact of the owner. So it would be the easiest that maybe we ask the ministry to make a note on the import permit that in case of a purebred dog, we are going to contact them, for example, something like that, if they will accept.
Yeah.
No.
I think there'll be more understanding if you approach them as the organization.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, we luckily have a good relationship with them, so it's not impossible in any case. It's worth a try, for sure, and we will try to have that discussion soonest. Yeah. So we are coming to the end of our little seminar. What can I say? Any last words, anyone? Conclusions?
I would like to sort of encourage breeders to encourage other breeders to be proudful. What do I mean is, if you sell a puppy and somebody is mistreating that dog, or you expect that person not to be the best person to have your puppy, please learn how to pull back your puppies. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to be your name. You know, it's going to be, somebody's going to say, oh, Nada sold me this dog. How bad it looks really, you know, it's in a very poor, bad condition. But yeah, Nada sold me that dog. I'm not saying Nada sells to everyone. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
Breeders, we need to learn how to pull back our dogs. Me personally, we bred as canine expert, we bred a couple of Malinois, sold them to different people, but they didn't really treat the dogs the way we wanted them to. So we pulled our dogs back, and now we have all of them grown up. We have over 23 dogs in all our 3 different kennels, but we don't mind that. It's not an issue because we are happy, they are happy. So let's, as breeders, try to keep our dogs as our kids, you know?
Yeah.
Try to put them in good homes. It's the only way we are going to make this thing standard.
Caesar, are you with us? Caesar?
Yes, please. Hello, I'm here.
A question to you is,
yes, please.
What is going on with the gene bank? Do you know anything? Are they going to be able to do genetic testing soon?
Well, I think this is going to be an effort of the breeders. If we have the clubs, and eventually we have to push them to set up the Uganda Kennel Club. Because, you know, when the problem we have had also the political issues, you remember in 1977 when East African community collapsed, the East African Kennel Club was taken to Kenya.
Yeah.
So the registry from the start and everything collapsed from that.
Sorry, we can't hear
So
you. I want to interject here. Uganda Kennel Club
yes.
is already formed, but they have 0 activities and they are not really on any meaningful path. The only organization that is on a meaningful path and is heading to the membership of the World Federation of Kennel Clubs and Associations, is Canine Association Uganda. We are applying this year. I'm not going to be specific on when, but the application is almost prepared. And I've had several meetings with FCI where they have assured me that I need to make an application. It needs to be tabled to the General Assembly, and Uganda will be admitted as an associate member because we don't have many dogs registered to become a full member. So we are on a clear path, and everything we've done in the past 3 to 4 years was with the aim to take Uganda to the world map of canine associations and clubs. So we are already here. We are doing the
I thank
job.
you for that effort. Yeah, because usually the kennel clubs, usually there is a government involvement, but the priority at the moment, like I said before, has not been the dogs. But if the members can stay committed, and at some point, when we have to interface with these government officials, we must also advocate for funding, because some of the work we are doing is in public interest. Dog breeding is not a very cheap venture, or maintaining the welfare issues is very important, that the public can fund us to a point. So that's what I would want to encourage.
I need to again interject here. Same as FIFA. FIFA will not admit any country where the government interferes in the regulation of the local football association. It is exactly the same with FCI. They want associations or clubs to be built by members, through members' involvement, and with no government interference. And that's what we're doing. However, we have excellent relationships with the government. We are constantly in touch with KCCA Public Health Office and with Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Culture, the Department of Animal Health. We interact almost on a weekly basis, and they are very happy for what we are doing because they can see that our involvement in registration of dogs, in microchipping of dogs, is bringing results to them, and they see us as a vehicle of managing unethical breeders and bringing that activity down, and also see us as a vehicle of organizing vaccinations for community dogs and so on. We've already done it a couple of times. So we are very, very much together, but the government does not guide our activities and they do not fund us. They're welcome to fund us, of course. We're not going to say no to money, but then we would rather channel that money to public health, to vaccinations and spaying and neutering clinics, than to channel it to dog breeding. But we need genetic testing, and we need to have it done in country at an affordable rate. So are they going to start doing it at the gene bank?
Well, I think going forward, I think this is a discussion that we should have with the people in charge of the at the NAGRIC, and we can see how we forward it, because the genetic testing at the private laboratories is very expensive. But we can also talk to the government analytical lab. They could help us because they do genetic testing.
Well, the thing is, in my last discussion with them, they said that they're not doing it for animals. They were very clear that they're doing human genetic testing and for medicine. And then police also never got back to me, and they have a forensic lab, and they could easily set it up for us. So I think we need to resuscitate that motion to find a place that will do the genetic testing, interpretation, and keep an independent gene data bank. So I hope I can count on you, Caesar, to maybe ask some questions around and find out what should be the best way. Achu, you mentioned pulling out a dog from a new home. And yes, Caesar rightfully writes in the messages that it should always be in the contract. We do have a puppy contract template. I suggest we see between the lawyers and trainers and breeders here that we maybe read through and point to what needs to be changed or adjusted, and that we start implementing puppy contract for all the willing breeders. Obviously, they will not implement it 100%, but once they see that it makes a difference, then it will be something like a useful tool for everyone. So it's 8:45. I would like to close today's session. I think we've covered a lot of topics, and it's a very wonderful start. I would like to also thank you all for being present, to being with us and sharing with us. My suggestion is that you send Primrose your email address in case she doesn't have, so that we will send you the summary of this meeting, so like meeting minutes, and in a couple of days we are going to put the video on the on our brand new YouTube channel. Another thing is that since I'm studying mass communications, I think this year our communication channels are going to expand, and there's going to be much more visibility for CAU, and that will have to be deliberate. And we have started developing a plan and a strategy on how we are going to make CAU more visible and more active. If any one of you would like to join any of our committees, please let us know. We are open to working with all our members and sympathizers, so we are not excluding anyone. All that you can inform Primrose, and we are going to get back to you on the way forward. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and see you on the last Monday of February. Thanks a lot, everyone. I'm going to end the meeting now. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nada. Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.